Okay, so hello. You guys know how I'll sometimes do these unboxing videos, and sometimes I'll like do the unboxing video and then later do an official review. Sometimes, in the case of like a massive kind of box, like the Carroll Baker Umberto Lindsay, or the Giallo Essentials Volume 2, or the Godzilla Criterion Showa Era, or the Shawscope Volume 1. I don't review the individual movies. Now, there may be a time when I may review some individual movies within those, but basically, that's, you know, a massive thing, and I go into incredible details. You guys know, maybe too much painstaking detail. But like recently, I've had ones like Out of the Blue and Libido and No One Heard the Scream, where I'll do the unboxing, and then later I will do the videos. Out of the Blue, I still haven't done though. I did the unboxing, and it was a pretty popular video, so I am going to do the proper review. It's coming soon. That's all I can say. I'm not sure when, before the end of the year, but hopefully much sooner than the end of the year. It's one I've been working on, so in the background. So I decided, I have a channel patron, Terry Mulford, who has graced me with some things a time or two, or three, and he asked me what might be on my Amazon list that I might want to review. And so I told him, and he had it sent to me, and it came very quickly. And it's a movie that, I know so well, though even though I may not have seen all the bonus features on it, I can tell you all about the Blu-ray itself and what's contained in it and what the bonus features are. But I can also go ahead and do a review all at once on it, and talk about the movie. With Out of the Blue, I had not watched it in a few years. This movie, it's probably been maybe a few years, but I've seen it so many times. And I've watched clips of it since then on YouTube a number of times, listened to the soundtrack. So I'm going to go ahead and try to do an unpackaging and review all in one. So this will be the new episode. So I got this in the mail. It was in my mailbox. Yes, not on my porch, in my mailbox. When I arrived home from a day job mere moments ago. I'm going to go ahead and cut this way up at the top so I can recycle this to mail out my eBay stuff. I could probably fit a comic book in here, definitely a Blu-ray or a DVD. So, let me share with you my bounty. This is one I wanted in my permanent my permanent Blu-ray library a long time. Baba Yaga by Coraddo Farina, starring Carroll Baker and Isabelle DeFunis and George Eastman. Someone says unique. The psychotronic video guy, those Michael Weldons, he thought it was unique. It is unique. Here's the back. So this is done by Blue Underground, the company I'm always talking about. That Bill Lustig, David Gregory, and Jay Douglas formed, splintered off from when they were with Anchor Bay Entertainment. And of course later, Gregory splintered even further and made the great Severin films. So this is one I was fearing was gonna go out of print, but it's very inexpensive. And I was like, why do I not have this in my collection? It was such an important part of my DVD collection. So I'm gonna look at the Blu-ray, we're gonna open it up and see what's on it, and I'll read you the back, and I can actually read it, I believe, in this light. And then I'll talk about the movie and what it's about, what I think about it. And probably, give you a tiny bit of background, but not excessive. In context, so to speak. So, here's the wrap. Okay, Lovely package. So Baba Yaga, the psychedelic shocker based on the erotic comics of Guido Crepax, three ellipses after that. Legendary sex symbol Carroll Baker, baby doll, the Watcher in the Woods, stars as a mysterious sorceress with an undying hunger for sensual ecstasy and unspeakable torture. But when she casts a spell over a beautiful young fashion photographer, the gorgeous Isabelle de Funes, they don't give her credits like, she was a musician or whatever. They just, she's gorgeous. Milan's most luscious models are sucked into a nightmare world of lesbian seduction and shocking sadism. Are these carnal crimes the result of one woman's forbidden fantasies? Or is this the depraved curse of the devil witch known as Baba Yaga? Baba Yaga is a legendary witch, a Russian legend. George Eastman, the Grim Reaper and Horrible, co-stars. Why would you want to name your movie Horrible? That's like inviting yourself right away for criticism. Co-stars in this provocative Euro shocker, also known as The Devil Witch and Kiss Me, Kill Me. And in some markets, I think Greece, it was also known as Black Magic. I used to have a bootleg under that name. Written and directed by Coraddo Farina and based on the notorious S&M comic Valentina by Guido Crepax. Blue Underground is now proud to present Baba Yaga, newly transferred from pristine vault materials and presented in kinky high definition. All right. So it's a 185:1 aspect ratio. This is a 1971 color film, 83 minutes. And this is a region-free Blu-ray. The audio is in, English mono, Italian mono, and English, French, and Spanish subtitles. Yes. So here are the extras. Farina and Valentina, interview with co-writer, director Coraddo Farina. Freud in color, Guido Crepax documentary. Deleted and censored scenes, theatrical trailer, poster and still gallery, comic book to film comparison. Now, most if not all of those extras were on the Blue Underground DVD. So this is really just an upgrade to Blu-ray, and I'm excited about watching it. I hope the sound is good because the soundtrack is just amazing. Trying to remember somebody really amazing. Piero Umiliani maybe does the soundtrack. Why is he not credited back here? What the hell? See what's inside this beautiful blue case. Those are the disc. This art is from the Valentina story cycle called Magic Lantern, where she meets Baba Yaga in the comic books, or the bande desinee, which is French term for comic books. Now, I used to have Magic Lantern, and it didn't make the move from the old house to here. So anyway, this is a photo of young Valentina and her famous bobbed haircut with the aforementioned Magic Lantern, the enchanted camera that puts her in touch with Baba Yaga and all kinds of erotic adventures. The Freud in Color documentary on here, I do remember it really well. It's very good, history of Crepax and Valentina. And they replicate a lot of the panels in the movie. It's a very, it's definitely a comic book movie. By the kind of old definition, where you had people like Tinta Brass did Deadly Sweet, or Coran Anglais, or whatever, or Corangola, Heart in the Mouth. Deadly Sweet used a lot of fumetti, Italian comics, techniques, even like word balloons and quick cuts and panels and things like this. In recent years, a movie that did this a lot that is widely hated was Ang Lee's The Hulk, and some people felt it was an uneasy juxtaposition with this heavy psychodrama that they already thought was a ridiculous interpretation of the Hulk. Now, I'm going to tell you guys the secret, one of my controversial views. I love Ang Lee's Hulk. Let's not go any more further than that tonight. So, right, some fan bros just unsubscribed. Anyway, here's the inner sleeve behind. There's young Valentina. Her hair's the same. Her features aren't quite Valentina, but Isabelle de Funes was a beautiful woman. Oh my God, I turned gold all of a sudden. Golden. But the costumes are great. And, you know, she's not a great actress, but she doesn't need to be. I mean, the character in the comics is more or less a cipher for all these adventures. This film it's somewhat explicit, but nothing like the comic books, which are hard XXX. Not all the way through, but, you know, sporadically there are bursts of spurts of erotic paroxysms. Anyway, that's the menu for the movie. So I first saw this movie. I think I first read about it in I believe I read about it in Phil Hardy's Encyclopedia of Horror. And of course, when I learned of this existence, I had to have it because, you know, I love comic book movies. And there was a very important book I used to check out of the library in my youth, like once a year, called The World Encyclopedia of Comics, edited by Maurice Horn. Various writers contributed. And it was an alphabetical entries of comic book titles, comic strip titles, characters, creators, you know, writers, artists, companies, sometimes terms from all around the world, from 1897-ish. I think they started kind of the Yellow Kid as the line of demarcation, though, you know, now some literary archaeology done by credible people like Robert Beerbaum have revealed that technically there were comic books, more or less, comic books and strips, more or less like what the Yellow Kid was, and what evolved into the published pamphlet comics in like the 1930s. As far back as the 1840s, I forgot the name of the artist, but the name of the character is crazy. But anyway, I just learned some of this is very weak. But anyway, he may be mentioned in this book. I read the book a lot when I was a kid. Finally found an affordable copy on eBay. It was published in volumes 1 and 2, and I would check it out of the library in whatever iteration. Sometimes they had both the 1 volume and the 2 individuals. I read the hell out of that thing, man. So anyway, for many years I didn't read it, and I found that copy. I've got the 1 volume all in one. I'd like to actually do a video on it sometime. It is really one of the most amazing and important books ever published about comic books and comic strips, and that's where I first learned of Guido Crepax and Valentina. So, but I never, read any of her strips. So I learned about this movie, and there were quite a few vendors who were working in the gray market, as we called it back then, bootlegs of videos, and Luminous Film and Video Works, European Trash Cinema, Video Search for Miami, and some other lesser lights here and there. And it was a crowded market, and we were all dying to see these things. I've talked about this extensively on this channel, and quite a few of my friends of a certain age and older, occasionally slightly younger, they're really precocious ones, were on this stuff from the late 80s to 90s until like the DVD explosion and the internet, when all this stuff started coming out in its intended form, because of people like the people who founded Blue Underground and Severin. And I've talked before about how Anchor Bay was a game changer, and God bless Anchor Bay. God's bless Anchor Bay. I'm not a monotheist. So there was, for several years, Shelton Drum kind of, I don't know if he's the man who organized the Heroes Convention, the biggest comic book convention ever come out of this whole part of the country. For a few years, it was the number 3 biggest in the country. But then Wizard World, and by Wizard Magazine, bought a bunch of different smaller conventions, like Chicago and some other ones, and they beefed them way up, and eventually some of them exceeded Heroes as far as attendance and amount of guests and things. But there was like San Diego Comic-Con, and that's still number 1, and then another one, and then Heroes. So that was at his peak. Biggest show I ever went to, he had dropped out of the top 3, but there was while I was married, they estimated 25,000 people attended in 3 days. Now, of course, that's nothing compared to San Diego Con, which I attended in the year 2006. But in any case, Shelton has his moral and legal standards, I guess you could say, that on and off through the years have kind of gotten liberal, conservative, back and forth a bit, and dictate a lot of his decisions. I guess he wants a family-friendly convention, as he calls it. Well, I'm an adult and I don't have any children, so that doesn't interest me. But, I don't want to say he turned a blind eye. Maybe he was ignorant of it, or maybe he just was being liberal those years. But a lot of these kind of movies on bootlegs, gray market videotapes were being sold at his conventions beginning in 1994. Is that the year I went? Probably 1994, probably. I went in 93. I missed 1994. But I went from 1995 to 2007. I went to the convention. So from 1995 until about, I don't know, year 2000, I would say. Maybe 97, 98, or whatever. 3 to 5 years. Shelton was letting people set up. And so every year, I mean, there have been sporadic ones here and there, but there were tons of them. Like in 1995, Shelton was trying to diversify. He actually had some cult film actors and TV actors. I thought he's going in a great direction. And then he was like, no, I don't want to get like San Diego Con. It's too multimedia. I want to do comic books. And I'm like, all right. So those of us who like that kind of coverage. And of course, with the ascent of the superhero film and Marvel Studios, like the crossover between the two, we like that stuff. So it's a little frustrating. So that's the long story. The short story is me and the girl I was involved with at the time and lived with. We rummaged through several of these dealers. And we picked up a lot of gems. Not everything, but a bunch of stuff we had read about, we picked up copies of. And they were on one of the labels I mentioned. A couple of them weren't. They were more rare. And one was called Black Magic. And it was a Greek tape. And it had been, I think Greek had a bit different format, like there's NCSC and PAL and et cetera, CCAM. I don't know what part of the country, in that part of the world, in Greece, what their videotape format was. But anyway, it had been converted to NTSC VHS, and it was called Black Magic, and it had a poster, which kind of looked, it was a painting on the cover, it kind of looked like maybe Baba Yaga-ish character, no Valentina-ish character. So I watched the living fuck out of that tape. I loved the atmosphere. I loved everything about it, man. It was one of those movies you could get enveloped into, and I often did. It was like, yeah, it was like a sensory experience. I'm not saying it was brilliant, but I think within this realm of Italian exploitation, and within the realm of comic book adaptations, especially Italian ones. I mean, there were some decent ones around that time, but I think this is actually better made than Danger Diabolic, which a lot of people put as the high standard of that sub um, genre, whatever. And I hate to transgress against Mario Bava; he's one of my favorites, but I much prefer Baba Yaga, and it's hard to say which of them is more faithful to the comic books because those are both very episodic stories. In other words, every issue, Valentina has some sexual escapade, and then at the end, she's just in her status quo. Diabolic, every issue he rips somebody off or kills somebody and has sex with Ava Kant and goes back to status quo. So these are episodic. You could almost say formulaic, and they're great claim to fame is their incredible graphic style, especially Guido Crepax, who is an amazing artist. I don't know if the drawing that I showed you on this DVD on Blu-ray looked familiar, but an artist who ripped off Baba Yaga quite a lot in the late 80s through the late 90s was John Byrne. And so sometimes you'll look at a Guido Crepax vintage picture and you'll be like, oh, it looks kind of like John Byrne. It's like, no, John Byrne tried to look like this. Now, I don't care for John Byrne's interpretation of it, but I remember in a good issue of the Comics Journal, John Byrne said, I'm changing my art style. I'm inking only, I have no inkers. I'm only inking my own work now. And I'm reading a lot of European comics. And I think he was into some other stuff like Corto Maltese or whatever. I can't remember the name of that artist, writer, but definitely Crepax. And so Crepax, like that work by Byrne, there are limitations. It is overly stylized at times, but it's an auteur work to borrow from cinema terms. It's out of Crepax's head, It's his cartooning. Byrne is a cipher and a plagiarist. I don't particularly. He was able to synthesize a lot of things together enough to come up with a John Byrne look. That's very John Byrne. One that I loved when I was a young person, but now really dislike. I dislike his art, with few exceptions. But anyway, that was one of his influences. So, yeah, and then Blue Underground eventually put the DVD out, and I purchased it of this film, and then I sold it about a year and a half ago when I realized, I should go ahead and upgrade when I can afford it because it's pretty cheap. I was upgrading a few titles like this around that time that were cheap through Blue Underground that I had sold on DVD, like Django Kill, If You Live Shoot, and Jose Larraz's Vampires with a Y. So this is really one I had to get. So basically, the movie, I've talked about atmosphere. Atmosphere is really what it's about. It's kind of a movie that portrays these characters, Valentina and her boyfriend, and I can't think of his name right off the top of my head, played by George Eastman or Luigi Montefiore, who is known for many, many things. He acted in tons of Italian movies under the name George Eastman. He was also a writer and a producer. He created the character of Chioma and co-wrote that film. He put a lot of his own ideas into his two-part, I don't know, opus, Anthropophagus the Beast, aka the Grim Reaper, and then Absurd, the quasi-sequel. And I'm drawing blank, but I know he wrote some other stuff, some westerns besides Keoma. He was a creative guy, and of course he named himself after George Eastman, who, the photographer, filmmaker who I guess created Eastman Color, Eastman Kodak, whatever that company, way, way, way back, like well over a century ago. So when you hear Eastman Color or Eastman Kodak, that's George Eastman. So it's a little, nod. Um, and it stuck, because that way he could be banked as an international star with an English sounding name. So he's pretty good in this. But what I was going to say about those two characters is that Valentina and her beau, they kind of travel in these kind of chic, kind of hipster circles, and she's a cutting edge fashion photographer in Milan, and this is not a giallo. I mean, contrary to what it sounded like, what I wrote, the way it was phrased, what I just read sounded like almost like Blood and Black Lace. Like, there's some horrible, sex pervert, stalking these Milan's top fashion models. It's not like that. There's a lot of kinky photography, not incredibly sexually graphic, but a lot of like whips and chains and S&M and leather, paraphernalia and iconography. But there's equal measures of this kind of portraying their lifestyle as being part of this kind of chic scene, which transplanted from France to Italy, or maybe it's supposed to take place in France. I don't think so, but I've never. That's always been a little fuzzy to me. Maybe I'll figure it out this time I watch it. There's even a scene during a party where there's a lot of these crazy aphorisms and political dialectics and pop culture dialectics, kind of stuff you'd see in a Godard film from the late 60s. And Godard is mentioned, and Guido Crepax himself appears playing himself. And there's that one line, Snoopy, in his own way, is subversive. I think that's the line. Sean Lee Levin can correct me. Snoopy, the Peanuts character. So, which, seems random, but, then you come back to the idea that Guido Crepax is a cartoonist. So, like Charles Schultz. No, not like him, but you know what I mean. They're both cartoonists. Carol Baker, there's not really much to her character, or the implication is she's like an immortal witch. She is the Baba Yaga of legend. She's aging, but she's still beautiful, like Carol Baker was in real life. She has the magic camera. She enchants Valentina's camera. Valentina has these kind of spells and, blankouts, and of course, Baba Yaga tries to seduce her. There's always going to be, in this period in Italian and Spanish and some other European films as well, but during this whole period of Italian and Spanish genre films, there's invariably a lesbian sexual element to it, or romantic element to it. So she's dominating Valentina, and George Eastman has to save her, and they go to her creepy mansion. At one point, there's a doll. She has this, Baba Yaga has a doll that's dressed in this S&M outfit. Looks like kind of like Wendy O. Williams, except without the mohawk. And then she brings it to life, and it's like a woman playing it. And the woman playing it isn't really very curvaceous or anything. She's just kind of, just kind of almost like a model for the leather. It's like a mannequin who moves a little bit. But so some of the kinkiness of the ideas, it's just not as creative as Crepax's comics. There's a love scene between the two main characters. I'm sorry, is Valentina and her boyfriend, not Valentina and Baba Yaga. Again, the music's fantastic, and it's filmed in a really amazing way, and it does replicate the mood and the kind of imagery that runs all through Crepax comic, Valentina comics. So this isn't really a movie I could go on and on and on about. Maybe if I watched it again, I'd have more great observations, but some might call it a superficial movie. Maybe it is. But to me, it's pure cinema. It's just beautiful to look at. It's beautiful to listen to. Two beautiful women. Kind of funny satirical dialogue at times. They do these. This is the thing. Her boyfriend is a producer director of TV commercials, and they get more and more absurd. And one of them has this insane racist angle, but it's not as wince-inducing as you might expect because it's just so ridiculous and absurd. So it's just like audacious and crazy and kind of funny, but it would never float now. No, I don't think racism is funny. That's not what I'm saying. This is just an outrageous movie, and I love it. I think it's like a perfect cult movie. It's something you can put on, you can watch, you can focus in on, or you can have it on the background, or you can kind of just have it as, sonic or oral or visual wallpaper. Or you can engage with it, and try to figure out the mysteries of it. I just want to say it's not that deep. There's not that many layers of the onion to peel back. But to flog that metaphor, it is very delicious trying to get there. I'm not saying peeling onions, is delicious, but some people it is, And again, to me, one of the great comic book adaptations, just because it is, after all, as said by Michael Weldon, it is unique. And I love unique films. I'm so happy to have this. I'm really happy now. I'm going to hug it. So anyway, I'm going to stop early for once, but I wanted to knock this out. I thought, what the hell? I'm going to, it's not really an unboxing. It's an unpackaging. I don't want to do a whole video, just unpackage one Blu-ray, not that I haven't done it before, and then have to do a proper review. So killing all the birds in one stone. Tomorrow is the all-day Thanksgiving ritual live stream. So when next you see me, I will be live, and I hope as many of you guys can drop by in between your respective holiday celebrations as possible. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the movies that I'm talking about. I'd like to chat. I'd just like it to be a fun experience. And, again, not trying to sound pitiful. I wasn't in the last video I made yesterday, but it would make me feel a bit less alone. So this is my way of reaching out, because really my family is a created family, not a inherited family, biological, genetic family. And my family is, freaks and weirdos and artists and activists and iconoclasts and the strange and unusual. They're like my people. I don't want to say they're my tribe, because some people who gather people like that unto themselves and begin using the word tribe fall victim to tribalism, which of course tribalism is one of the main problems of this whole partisan political system in America. It's why people can't hear each other over their echo chambers. But I had one artist who I had a little crush on several months ago, and we started kind of resonating a little bit. And I said, she's a little bit older than me, and I said, she said, "You're of my tribe." And within days, she was already kind of sick of me and bored, and it's like, "Yeah, you're texting me too much." And I was like, "Okay." I really wasn't texting her that much, but again, that's her perception. That's fine. So I stopped texting her altogether. that took care of that. I can take a hint. So, but my thing is, and certain people I've known who have used that term, uh, you know. Um, so I'm not saying you guys are part of my tribe, but and I'm just going to keep it simple, keep it real, keep it street level. Y'all are my people, and I love y'all, and I hope to see you at some form or hear from you in some way or another tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please contribute or be a patron if you can. And I'll be in touch soon with more, well, very soon with more. But beyond the live stream, more's coming up. And I think it's going to be worth waiting for. So take care.